where they said that you can go into any music shop and find a tutor for guitar and piano. And me being very much rock and pop, I'm a heavy metal kid at heart. It's like,
No.
yeah, but, and I started to feel a bit defensive. But then I thought, well, yeah, that opportunity is there for everyone. So if you just see that, maybe that's all you do, and then you don't get to experience everything else. But introduce a child to a bassoon, introduce a child to a French horn, introduce a child to a violin and a recorder, and they're suddenly enthralled with it.
I'm Dr. Liz Stafford, and this is Primary Music in Conversation. This episode of Primary Music in Conversation is proudly sponsored by Get Set for Education. Get Set for Education provides Get Set for Music, a curriculum platform that includes infectiously fun, national curriculum aligned lesson plans, singing assemblies, assessment tools, CPD, and so much more. Written by teachers for primary educators, Get Set for Education recognises how important it is for teachers to feel confident when teaching music. To learn more, visit getsetforeducation.co.uk. My guest for this episode is Nathaniel Cook from Charles Darwin Primary School. Let's find out how he is running music in his school. So, hi Nathaniel, and welcome to Primary Music in Conversation.
Hi.
Please, could you introduce yourself for our listeners?
Hi, I'm Nathaniel Cook. I am a primary teacher at Charles Darwin in Norwich, and I'm the music lead at the school. It's very much my passion. I've enjoyed teaching. It's this September coming will be my 10th year at Darwin, and I've music led the whole time it's been open. So that's kind of me. I'm the music one at Darwin.
Oh, wow. So, was it a new school when you joined?
It was a brand new school. My usual opening of how long I've been there is when we first went there, there wasn't even paint on the walls. We had our meeting upstairs, surrounded by old office furniture from the former building, whilst builders were painting and putting in ceiling tiles and everything. So it is very much, I look at a room and remember discussing where the sink was going to go and where doors were going to go. And you walk around imagining, oh, in about 3 years' time, there's going to be a hall here. So I've seen it all. Seen it came in from an old Norwich, North County Council office block into a wonderful, thriving school.
Wow. And so, talk me through where you started with music in terms of your kind of curriculum provision and how it's looking nowadays.
It was very much me to start with. As Darwin opened, were the very beginnings of Inspiration Trust's primary curriculum and the knowledge-rich curriculum, and there was lots of people who put a lot of time and effort into making sure the start was very right, and they laid it out to us, which all sounded amazingly lovely. But at that time, there was nothing for reception year one, which is all we had at Darwin at the time. So it started off very much me using Norfolk Music Hub, using Charanga, using my own experiences from music education to engage the children in school. And I believe it was the following year we had John Stevens join us as our well, I've completely forgotten his role in the school now. He is the director of music. That's the one. I'd not forgotten. He's the director of music at the trust. And we had him and Christine Council very much leading the development of the education. So since then, it built strength to strength on how can we offer something other for music that is not already there. And I really gravitate towards that because I love music and I grew up in a very musical house. So me, it was normal, but for everyone else, they might not, and music might be something other to them. So to give them that experience of there is a world out there beyond Radio One, beyond jingles that might actually grab them. So that's where we started. Um, yeah, it was very much John leading from the front and me riding his coattails to success, really. We had a lovely description from uh, Christian Council and John when we talked about instrument tuition, where they said that you can go into any music shop and find a tutor for guitar and piano. And me being very much rock and pop, I'm a heavy metal kid at heart. It's like,
No.
oh, yeah, and I started to feel a bit defensive. But then I thought, well, yeah, that opportunity is there for everyone. So if you just see that, maybe that's all you do, and then you don't get to experience everything else. But introduce a child to a bassoon, introduce a child to a French horn, introduce a child to a violin and a recorder, and they're suddenly enthralled with it, and they really gravitate towards it. And we've had lots of success in school of families discovering musical instruments and playing it. So it was very hard for me to hear it start because I'm a guitarist. I really like playing heavy stuff fast, and someone saying, "Well, we don't really need to focus on that." But the way they framed it was very much right. If you give a very wide range of experiences to the children, they've got a lot more choice to pick from, and that's definitely so true now at the school. We have pianists, guitarists, drummers, bassoonists, oboists, clarinetists, saxophonists, flautists, recorderists. So a huge woodwind family, a very successful ensemble that's led by our musical tutors. So we have got a wide range. So it's lovely to see from that comment that was made 8, 9 years ago that it really has come to fruition that we've got that.
I'm fascinated by this because I think the majority of people I speak to tend to come from a kind of classical background and are sort of trying to open out into other areas as a result of that. Almost kind of sounds like you're the opposite way around, like you've come from all the cool music, and you're having to maybe like go back in time and
No,
introduce.
very, very true. My nan was just a phenomenal lover of music. You could play her any movement, and she would tell you exactly who composed it, who recorded it, which version it was. And my mum, a phenomenal singer, when she was younger, was conducted by Simon Rattle. Violin was, in fact, my first instrument. But I saw my older brother listening to the Sex Pistols and playing heavy stuff, and that looked cool to me. And we watched Bill and Ted, and just everything was cool. Back to the Future was all guitars. So I started on violin, but then wanted to be cool and took that rock and pop. And it wasn't until as I got older that I started to see where the two overlapped and how music was music. I could put things from guitar onto piano and then put them down onto paper roughly. So it is very much like like you said, I'm showing that there is another side because I've seen another side. I'm not trying to coerce people into, oh yeah, it could be this, it could be this. I see it as all very cool.
So can I ask you, because you mentioned oboes and bassoons and things, which are not generally
Yes.
instruments that we hear of in primary. So talk me through how that came about.
I'll try and condense it into not a me saga. We had a good, real big uptake about 4 years ago of recorder players. We'd originally only offered instrumental tuition to Key Stage 2, but we started to get a lot of interest from Key Stage 1. Our woodwind tutor said, "Oh, I'll just take a big group of recorders." And it was close to half the year group picked up a recorder. And there was two people in it who really loved it. And one of the pupils, year six now, mum has thanked the school profusely about how important music has been to her daughter and how it's helped them get through school, which is lovely to hear. I try not to take mum's praise all on me because it's definitely a school effort and an instrumental tutor's effort, but they have just gone from strength to strength. So when they were doing very good at their recorder, instrumental tutors showed them the rest of the woodwind family that they could play with just their recorder knowledge. And it seemed like they gravitated towards oboe and bassoon. And on just looking at my notes, on the bassoon, we had some gradings recently, and our bassoonist is now a grade 4. She got a grade 4 in her bassoon. She's in year 6. So she's phenomenal.
Mind blown.
Yeah. And the when she performs in assembly, which is lovely, we get to see them performing. Like there is just something about the tone that she's also able to produce. So it's not just that she can play it; she really has become one with the instrument. And the tone she gets from it is lovely. So jealous. Almost 40-year-old. Woodwind is definitely not something I've been able to turn my hand to. And we've got year 6 absolutely smashing it.
That's amazing. So with your instrumental program, is it funded? Is it parent funded? Have you got bursaries or anything? How's that work?
It is predominantly parent funded. We have offers for people premium look after child, where they can get free to cheaper tuition. And we have had in the past those pupils who have hit financial difficulties but have been seriously engaged. Like that is the one good thing happening for them at the moment, that the trust have continued on with their tuition, because they could see that the student was really engaging in them, and to take it away would have been not the best choice. So it is a very expensive thing, and since our time of doing it, the prices have gone up. We are still cheaper than if they were to get their lesson privately outside of school.
Mhm.
So I do try and use that, not necessarily a sales pitch. I try and use the music to sell the experience, but we are still cheaper than if they were to look elsewhere. They get regular lessons weekly. They can be part of an ensemble. We do competitions. If they continue on through the trust into secondary, they'd be part of our carol service instrumentally. So there's a lot of benefits that come along with the instrument tuition. It's not just one-to-one, you get an instrument, you achieve at it. There's a lot of ensemble work as well, and lots of opportunities to perform and succeed with it. So I think that's a nice addition to the cost, is how much you get to do. Very much like if you football, if you're a sports person, lots of sport competitions, lots of sports experiences. We do have lots of musical experiences, which is lovely, especially when the kids come back with the trophy.
Can I ask you about the curriculum? Who's doing the teaching of music in your school?
So since the very start, it's always been done by class teachers at our school. Whenever I've shared, so we have two-form entry. So any year group I've been in, I've often offered to take both classes because I like teaching music and any opportunity. But it has always been a class teacher, and uh, we've always prided ourselves on everyone being great and everyone being engaged at everything. And we're a great staff at Charles Darwin, where we share our successes with the lead. So if I have a really good art lesson, I'll share it with the art lead, and if I enjoy some of the new English curriculum, I'll share it with the English leads. And lots of staff and pupils come to me showing me their music work, which is lovely to see. And it has very much been a supportive journey where we get time to be music leads, and I find out areas of success from the staff. I find areas that maybe they're finding a barrier to the lessons. I've recently started a coaching program with the rest of the staff. So rather than me running CPD, I've given them the opportunity that if they have a lesson coming up, they look at the lesson plan. If there's something in there that maybe they're not as confident with, they can arrange some time with me. I'll be able to go through it with them. We can team teach. They can come and watch me. Then they'll teach the lesson, and fingers crossed they'll feel a bit more confident. So it's always been an idea that all of us are all in it together, and we all teach music.
I particularly this week, actually, that kind of fills my heart with joy because I keep seeing things popping up everywhere. People kind of dunking on non-specialists teaching music in primary as if it's a bad thing, and of course, it's not a bad thing. It's the normal way of things in a primary
Yeah.
school. That's how primary schools work. But I really like that idea of the coaching actually. So rather than just having to kind of sit there and get a generic kind of training
Yeah.
session, it's really targeted.
Because we've had, for example, the most recent questionnaire I sent out, I had everything from not fully understanding how to access Kapow, which is what we run our curriculum from, so not being able to access the website fully, and how to talk about the music. So the teachers who weren't sure how to discuss music with their class can clearly access, so they don't need to sit there and watch me telling them how to access the website. So having this idea that it's tailored. They call me. They put out the Mr. Cook bat symbol in the sky, and I swoop in and show them what to do. But I take it from very much a side of humour and fun. I've always believed music to be fun. So a lot of my examples are very much over the top. When I'm getting the teachers to talk about music, I'll often play something very heavy and very fast because that gut reaction is they pull a face and go, oh, but then they suddenly start talking about it. So if you can, as an adult, say that's too fast, that's too slow, that's too loud, it made me feel scared, then you can do that with a class of year sixes, year fives. And really, using your amazing skill as a teacher, you change that loud into the dynamics. You change that fast into tempo, and then suddenly they're music specialists. And all I did was play something very loud at them.
I think you touched on really something really important there in that it's the teaching that's the difficult bit. The music bit is not the difficult bit, it's the teaching. And if you are a trained teacher, you are good at teaching. And actually, you're in a much better position than, say, somebody who's come in as a musician with no teaching experience and no teaching training. I do a lot of training teachers in my job, and I always say I would rather teach a teacher to teach music than a musician to become a teacher.
Yeah, there is something
Not
about how a classroom runs, isn't it? I've always thought that timing and when to move on is an innate sense that only teachers have.
And I think it's not to say that you musicians can't make great teachers and vice versa, teachers can make great musicians, but it's just, I think it is the more difficult part of the equation. And I don't think teachers fully understand that they've already got the hard bit under their belt,
Yeah,
because we get this kind of thing about music, don't we? That if we've not grown up with a musical background, and we've seen other children when we were at school going off for their special music lessons because they're the special talented ones, we get in our heads about it, I think. And it can result in teachers kind of thinking that music is a lot more difficult than it
yeah,
actually is.
absolutely. I mean, like I said, I always try and go for the just talking about it because much like with some things that I do with the kids where we discuss parts of stories, everyone talks about almost anything. And I'm sure every member of staff I've ever worked with has listened to the radio and told someone how much they love or hate a song on the radio. And especially in Key Stage 1, a lot of it is just having the children talking about it. There's not necessarily a specific right answer. If you're listening to Holst's and you know that it's Mars and you know that it's dark and it's red and it's evil, you know that because you're an adult. If a child said, oh, I found this quite funny. Oh, did you? Oh, that's interesting. What do you find funny about this music? And they'll probably tell you that they heard it in Minions or something, and so it reminded the children that it was really funny. But so that child has linked that sound to something funny. So when he comes to maybe make his own composition, he might make something that sounds quite dark, but in his head, it's quite funny. And it's those little things that where you just open up and have a chat about it that you might actually find that you're some sort of secret muso hidden inside.
Yeah, I think most people can kind of recognize the features of music and they know what it's doing to them, but they just might not have the language to
Yeah,
express it.
absolutely.
And I guess that's where you come in with your coaching program by
That's
going, oh, that thing is
exactly,
called this.
yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing.
So, we're getting a new curriculum at some point, new national
Mhm.
curriculum. Have you got any thoughts about that?
I'm always focused on how much it's going to be for the children. I'm very much, I do my job for the children. And if a child goes home and says, Mr. Cook did this, ha 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 ha, what might slip out is actually that they've learned some knowledge. Talking to my own daughter, she doesn't come home and explain to me the intricacies of maths or the intricacies of anything else. She talks about something she made or a suggestion a teacher gave her. So I've always been child-centered, and I just hope any change in a curriculum leans more towards the child's experience of education than the data they provide or the goals that someone is expecting them to reach. Because we have such a varied country and such a varied society that me as a teacher, I get that amazing job that every single day I make a change to every single child's life, however tiny it is. So it might be that I've got an outstanding pupil at reading and writing, and I've got another child who is very, very low in terms of data, but they love listening to stories and they play outside and they're really creative with their friends. So they have got that creativity in them. They've just not yet been able to direct themselves into writing it. And if we could do something fun that's child-centered to get them writing, then they could probably go there. So it's always for the children, which sometimes makes me sound like I'm some sort of I don't know, Gandalf type character on the top of a hill saying, for the children. But I've always thought anything I do, if a child can remember something, then I've done my job well. Because I have a very important role as a teacher that I'm molding the future. And I'd like it to be fun. They're in education a long time, and we're so lucky in this country to have education that it should be a fun experience.
I absolutely agree. And I think you sometimes you underestimate how much of an impact you can have on a
Mm.
child, but you only have to think back to your own school days, and immediately you can probably name the full names of the teachers who were nasty
Absolutely.
to you and the ones that, made your life more fun and enjoyable as you
Well,
went along as
yes.
well.
When we've been recently doing my year two class, we're performing a few songs from the Magic Flute next week to the parents. And the idea of having 60 kids amazingly engaged in opera always reminds me back to when I was in year seven and my English teacher introduced me to West Side Story. And since then, Shakespeare clicked for me. And like West Side Story would be one of my Desert Island discs. And
Mm.
it was just the fact that we were watching Men in Tights version of Shakespeare. And he was like, well, have you seen this? And me and my friends were going, oh, they've got knives and they're fighting. This is so cool. And I just since then, so they're like you said, there are times from my education that absolutely grasp me and have not let go since then. And I'm hoping that when we perform two of our pieces from the Magic Flute, that 20, 30 years' time, these little 6 and 7 year olds will say, oh, yeah, we did the Magic Flute with Mr. Cook.
I love the nonchalance with which you said with year two we're
Yeah,
learning songs from the Magic Flute, like as if that's just a normal everyday occurrence.
absolutely.
Well, I hope that performance goes well. What other
Oh,
things have you got in the pipeline? What's on your wish list for the future?
so we have a tremendous sporting reputation at Darwin, and that is, I would say, led by our sports lead. He has a great team around him, but the success is he is passionate about sports, and he made sure that every child has access to some sports and gets engaged in sports. And we have lots of trophies and shields. I would love for Darwin to be known for music as well. Part of me would like it to be known more for music than sport, but I'm not that competitive. But so we've last year we won an ensemble competition. Sadly, those children are now in year six and might have to miss it because they're on their residential.
Oh,
But we continue every year when we lose five or six instrumentalists, 10 or 12 join lower down in the school. So it is just the continuation of um, having more instrumentalists. But like I said, the Magic Flute, I've spent 3, 4 weeks now, where every lesson we have been out of seats, dancing around the room, pretending to be birds, pretending to be in a dungeon, whispering to people. And teachers just come past my room and go, oh, I have to come back here more often. And every child is engaged. Every single child could tell you what part of the story we're doing, why we're doing it. So, along with my coaching, showing staff that we can get out of our seats and have a bit of fun. No one's going to laugh at you for a teacher trying to sing or stand up at the front. So kind of my goal is if I could walk around school when music is in the timetable and see a teacher prancing around the room, I'd be a happy, happy man.
Well, I think you just have to play this podcast to your colleagues and then they'll know what the
Absolutely.
expectation
Yes.
is. Well, I really enjoyed chatting to you about all the stuff that's going on in your school, particularly, those obscure instruments. Oh, I shouldn't say obscure. I'll get letters from the oboist and the bassoonist. That's not the word that I meant. I meant endangered. That's the word I
Endangered,
meant.
yes.
Endangered instruments. I'm in awe of that. I think that's amazing that you've got that going on in a primary school. That's fantastic, and the opera stuff is great as well. Opera with
Well,
year two.
kind of big shout out to Royal Opera House, the Royal
Mhm.
Ballet and Opera. I did a CPD with them, and the way that they've constructed their, especially Key Stage 1 curriculum, we started just playing games. You had a hall full of adults playing Grandmother's Footsteps.
Mhm.
And then within 15 minutes of a little game and a little singing, suddenly you had a hall full of staging for the Magic Flute. So they're a really clever thing where they take a child's game and you do something fun and something silly, and then you add some words to it, and suddenly it's this beautiful piece of opera. So I've got sporty children moving around with gracious arms, being Papageno. It's lovely to see. Yeah,
Well, good luck with everything that you're doing. I'm sure
thank
you
you.
will have many more exciting things happening in the future with your school as well, and particularly, with your non-specialist colleagues, getting them more excited and engaged with and more confident about teaching music. That will stand them in good stead, I'm sure, as well. So just say again, thank you for your time, Nathaniel Cook.
More than welcome. I love talking about music.
Me too. Well, that was our final episode of season 4 of Primary Music in Conversation. And what a way to finish with a school where year 2 are singing opera and they've got children doing grade 4 bassoon. I mean, come on, amazing stuff. And particularly amazing when it's a school where the music is not all being taught by a specialist. It just goes to show it is perfectly possible for generalist teachers to teach music and teach it really, really well. If you enjoyed that episode, you can catch up with all of our other episodes wherever you found us, on whichever podcast app you're listening on, or of course on the video version on YouTube. We will be back in the autumn term with season 5, but do keep in touch with us through our socials, which you can find links to in the podcast notes. We would love to hear from you, especially if you would like to be considered as a guest for season 5. Do please get in touch with us, because before too long we'll be starting to think about getting those recording dates in. We'd like to thank Get Set for Education for sponsoring this episode of Primary Music in Conversation. If you're a music educator looking for national curriculum and model music curriculum aligned lesson plans that will help your staff feel more confident teaching music, visit getsetforeducation.co.uk to find out more and access a 2-week free trial. Primary Music in Conversation is presented by Dr. Liz Stafford, edited by Kay Charlton, and produced by Music Education Solutions.